When I was 14, I was catapulted into a new world that I had no knowledge about. I was diagnosed with depression and social anxiety. Due to my family doctor not having the knowledge about mental health, I had spent much of my childhood misunderstanding my deep sadness and fears. My anxiety had gotten so bad that I was unable to even leave my house. I went through 5 long months of treatment of learning to accept my diagnosis. I had no clue what lay ahead. I returned to public schooling in grade 10 to find that somehow word had gotten out about my depression and my treatment. I had past classmates coming up to me in the hall asking me if I had attempted suicide, asking me if I was one of those attention-seeking cutters, and it didn't just end with my past classmates. It grew to include current classmates and even complete strangers. One particular event that has stayed with me was going into the school bathroom and hearing one senior, clear as day, tell the other senior, "Oh, that suicide girl." The name has stuck in my mind since then, and sadly I've heard it more than a few times since. Since then, I've had to deal with a new diagnosis of PTSD due to an unhealthy relationship I had as a teen, and I've been through 2 long hospital admissions just in this past year. I've gained numerous scars on my body from self-harm and dealt with a suicide attempt. Even though I'm no longer in high school where random people knew about my mental health issues, I'm no longer able to hide it. Part of the reason is I don't want to. I've been through some pretty rocky waters in my life, and I'm still able to stand here in front of all of you, even though I've had several panic attacks already today because of this speech. No matter what a person has been through that's hard, physical or mental, if you're still standing after that hard event, you should be proud. You're allowed to be. But the other reason, that comes up when I'm having an off day that everyone with a negative mind can understand, those days when you're too exhausted to fight with your negative mind or with insensitive people, those days I can't hide my mental health issues because they're written on my body, or more precisely, carved. I have 19 lifelong scars just on my right forearm and wrist. I can't wear a t-shirt, tank top, strapless quarter sleeve, or swimsuit without my scars being on display. Imagine the reactions I must get, eh? I have to admit I've gotten sweetheart, concern, hugs, and pats on the shoulder from people that have seen them. Sadly, what stays with me is negative. The frowns, disgust, horror, fear, the bugged eyes. Why do those things stick with me? Because they're proof of the stigma that surrounds mental illness. Having to deal with stigma from classmates, a family doctor not educated about mental illness, even past friends and countless others, made my recovery and acceptance of my mental illness even harder. Others, males, female, young, old, having to deal with a new or old diagnosis of mental illness are already trying to deal, already being completely exhausted by trying to manage day-to-day with their own negative thoughts. Tacking on dealing with the stigma, that almost forces people to give up, forces people to think even more negatively of themselves. Society has this thought that talking about mental health or having a mental illness is such a taboo, something you shouldn't tell others, something to hide under the rug, something to be ashamed of. On my blog, Diminish the Stigma, I'm fighting stigma by telling my story. By talking about my own issues and being open about my diagnosis, I'm opening up the possibility for others to share their own stories, their own mental health issues. By speaking out, by sharing, we are showing that we're not ashamed, that mental illness is not something to be ashamed about. I'm also using the numerous hours I've spent reading personal stories, textbooks, and articles about psychology. I'm giving the facts, the information to help understand mental illness. Misunderstanding a mental illness enables the stigma of mental health to continue. As an example, not understanding the chemical imbalance, such as too much or too little serotonin, that causes mental illness leads to comments that people can just get over it. by informing society of why and how we help to diminish the stigma. Remember, with knowledge comes understanding, with understanding comes acceptance. I'm sharing the various mental health related awareness days, weeks, and months. Did you know October is Mental Illness Awareness Month? And last but not least, I'm wearing my scars proudly. I've been through a battle, I'm going through a battle I'm proud to say I'm continuing to fight. The war will be long and I've lost some battles, but I've won some too, and that gives me hopes for the future. Thank you.